Terry Heymann, Director of Responsible Gold for the World Gold Council, now joins me at the PDAC 2013 here in Toronto. Terry, thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you for having me. Very nice to be here.
Terry, so I understand you're a panelist here at the PDAC speaking about conflict-free gold, basically. Tell us a little bit about the steps we've made with this initiative.
Sure, so absolutely, this whole issue of conflict-free metals getting increasing prominence, and there was a discussion yesterday. A lot of organizations have worked around how to provide that confidence that metal is conflict-free. At the World Gold Council, we've done a lot of work, particularly around gold and gold mining, and we released a standard last year that allows mining companies to show how they are operating in such a way that if they are in a conflict-affected area, they can have confidence in their customers, their investors, the communities can have confidence that the gold they're producing is conflict-free.
Terry, how would you say the mining industry receives this information or this change? Are they willing to work with the World Gold Council in adopting better methods to avoid any conflict minerals?
Absolutely. I mean, the World Gold Council is a membership organization. We're the market development organization for the gold industry. And the reason that we've got increasingly involved in this is recognizing that long term it's important for the future of the industry, that customers, that investors care about provenance and where gold comes from. And our members, the large mining companies, understand that and have really been the driving force behind this. So yes, this is a World Gold Council initiative, but really developed very strongly and with a lot of support from our member companies, some of the world's largest gold miners.
So mining companies want to be seen that they're producing clean gold.
Yeah, I think it's more than want to be seen. They want to have their own confidence that they are producing. They know that it's important for their operations. They know that it makes them commercially effective to be sure that their operations are secure, that they are taking appropriate consideration around human rights, around community engagement, around the things that you need to do when you're operating in more challenging environments. And increasingly their investors are looking at them to see that they have these systems in place.
Terry, where would you say are the jurisdictions in the world where this issue is most pronounced?
Well, I think most of the focus to date has been on the Democratic Republic of Congo. In particular, the US government has put in place a law looking at minerals coming out of the DRC and the adjoining countries, something called Section 1502 of the Dodd-Frank Act. But our standard is global, and I think that's important. This is an issue that you can find all around the world. When we're talking about conflict, we're talking around civil war, we're talking about militia activity. Whenever you're operating in those places, wherever it happens around the world, it's important that you have the systems in place to be able to show that you produce gold in a way that's not fueling or helping that conflict, that militia activity or whatever it is.
So obviously diamonds went through kind of the same type of process, but I guess people's main point is that diamonds are traceable, gold is not. What is your answer to people who bring that up?
Sure, and I think it's an important point. The gold supply chain is different, and both the fact that gold is fungible, that a refiner mixes gold from lots of different sources, both from mined gold and from recycled sources. And indeed, as you just look at the whole gold supply chain, there's a lot of gold that comes back into the supply chain. Gold doesn't get consumed. Getting close to 40% of gold every year comes from recycled sources. So the gold supply chain is different and needs different approaches. Where we've seen a lot of focus in the gold industry is different parts of the supply chain putting in place their standards, their approaches to make sure that they are operating responsibly. So if you're a mining company, what you need to do to show that you are operating mining responsibly. If you're a gold refiner, which is where a lot of the gold goes to after the mine, what are the refiners doing to undertake due diligence on the gold that they're... And you're seeing a lot of work around refiner due diligence.
Right. When we look at the DRC, obviously, yes, we have to look at the mining companies, but how much of an onus is also on the government there, Terry?
I think there's an important role for the government there. There's an important role for donor governments. I think the Canadian government and others have been very involved and played an important contribution. One of the main forums where a lot of these conversations are taking place is the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And the Canadian government's been playing a leading role, the US government, other donor countries. So yeah, I think there's an important awareness and recognition that this is not about stopping production, stopping responsible minerals trade in conflict-affected areas if that minerals trade is responsibly undertaken. And increasingly you're seeing government involvement and support to help support responsible minerals trade in some of these more challenging places like the DRC, recognizing that that is a source for social and economic development.
Terry, finally, how much more work do you think is needed with getting to a point that you think would be good for the industry?
Well, I think the industry's made a lot of progress, and I think our standard, the conflict-free gold standard, is really a landmark achievement for gold miners. Now we're obviously at the stage where companies are putting the implementation in place. Oftentimes they have the systems in place, but they need to tighten that up. They need to make sure that they can actually bring in an external auditor, an external assurance provider, and externally validate that. So that's going on and happening at the moment. Where there have been a lot of concerns raised recently, and the area that probably globally needs most work, is around artisanal mining. Operates in some of the least formalized ways, outside the formal system, often challenging practices in terms of some of the environmental considerations. So that's an area that I think really needs ongoing work, and indeed the OECD is increasingly focused on how to promote a formal trade in artisanal mining.
Is that more pronounced in Latin America?
I think you see examples of that in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia. It does depend, and it's very different, and it's very context specific, but absolutely there are instances all over the world looking at the formalization of artisanal mining, and it's something that governments have a very important role to help advance.
Terry, thank you so much. I wish you luck with this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And thanks for watching our continuous coverage from the PDAC 2013 here in Toronto. You can email me any questions at newsfeedback@kitco.com or follow this conversation at Daniela Cambone. Thanks for watching.